Dr. Carell was one of the top scientists in the Galactic Union. He was not just smart, he was also very careful. He worked in a high-security lab on the planet Xyrian. Far from the center of the galaxy, his job was to study DNA from different alien species to find new cures, weapons, and technology. But one day, something strange arrived on his lab table. It was a blood sample taken from a human soldier who had died in a small border fight. At first, Carell didn't think much of it. Humans were new to the galactic stage. They were still learning space travel and had only joined the Galactic Union. A few years ago, no one thought they were special, just noisy. Fast-breeding creatures from a blue planet. But when Carell ran the DNA tests, the screen blinked red. Unusual genome structure detected, it said. He ran the tests again and again, every time. The result was the same. The human DNA had something he had never seen before. It was extremely adaptable. Not only that, but it carried markers that could merge with many alien species if the theory was correct. Humans could reproduce with other alien races and, not just once or twice, but easily and often. Dr. Carell sat back in his chair, his 3 fingers shaking. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the data. This cannot be real, he whispered. He checked the system logs, looked for errors, and even cleaned the equipment. Then he ran the tests using a backup sample, same result. He took a deep breath and pulled out a secret communication tablet. He sent a message to his old friend in the Galactic Council, Advisor Ralph. His message was simple but urgent. I've discovered something dangerous. Something that can change the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans are not what we thought. They are fertile, too fertile. They can bond with us, breed with us, and perhaps overtake us. Just minutes after he sent the message, the lab lights began to flicker. The main door locked itself with a heavy thud. Carell turned his head. Quickly, his heart's pounding. Who's there? He called, but no one answered. Suddenly, a black drone flew in through the air vent and shot a small beam at the computer. All the data was destroyed in seconds. Carell jumped out of his seat and ran to the emergency pod at the back of the lab. He knew someone had sent that drone. Someone high up didn't want this discovery to get out. He barely escaped as the lab exploded behind him. Inside the small escape pod, Carell sat shaking. He still had his notes, scribbled by hand. Hidden in his coat, far away, in a hidden part of the galaxy. Advisor Ralph received the message and was shocked. He knew Carell didn't lie. He read the last words again and again. If true, humans may become the dominant species in less than 50 years, and they won't even need to fight. Ralph didn't sleep that night. He looked out the window at the stars and thought. The galaxy had faced many threats, wars, plagues, rebellions, but never anything like this. Not a species that could conquer through love instead of war. Not a species that could quietly spread through every race, every world, just by being close. The next day, Ralph tried to raise the topic in the council meeting, but the reaction was cold. Most members laughed. Others warned him not to repeat such ideas. A few looked nervous, and that scared him even more. Someone already knew. Back in the escape pod, Carell set a new course. He couldn't go home. Not. Now he had to find proof, real proof, and show it to the galaxy. He knew he would be hunted. But he also knew the truth had to come out. The human race was more than just a new species in the galaxy. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Not just strong, not just clever, but the most fertile. And that was power. Real, silent, unstoppable power. Jason Cole sat alone in a dark cell made of glowing blue metal. The walls were cold and smooth, and the floor was always wet. He had been there for 42 days. Maybe more. He had stopped counting. He didn't know where he was exactly, just that it wasn't Earth. The gravity was light. The air tasted strange, and the guards looked like walking lizards with silver eyes. Jason was a soldier. Part of a small human unit that had been exploring a new planet, but something went wrong. An alien patrol ship attacked their camp, and Jason was the only one captured alive. They didn't torture him, not yet. Instead, they fed him, studied him, scanned his body, and gave him strange tests every day. It felt like he was inside some giant alien science lab. But he wasn't just a prisoner, he was a subject. One of the lead scientists who came to study him was named Rinna. She was tall, with green skin and large black eyes. Her voice was calm. Her movements slow and graceful. She always wore a clean white coat and carried a silver tablet. At first, Jason hated her. She was just another alien, just another jailer. But slowly, things began to change. Rinna asked him questions not just about biology or human habits, but about Earth, about families, emotions, and dreams. Jason didn't want to talk, but he was tired. And he missed hearing a voice that didn't sound robotic or cold, so he started talking just a little at first, then more. He told her about oceans, trees, birds, and the way snow felt on skin. She listened quietly, her eyes focused, as if she were trying to understand the feeling of wind. Over the next few days, something strange began to happen. Jason noticed Rinna was visiting more often. Her questions turned softer, more personal. And she started to smile, a strange thing for a Voltaire, whose kind were known to be emotionless. Jason began to notice other things too. She stayed longer after the tests were done. Her hand would shake a little when she took his blood. She once asked what his heartbeat sounded like. When he laughed and offered to let her listen, she hesitated, then gently placed her head on his chest. That moment lasted only 10 seconds, but it changed everything. Later that night, Rinna returned to her private quarters, confused and afraid. She couldn't sleep. Her body felt warm, her heart raced, and her thoughts kept going back to the human prisoner. She checked her vitals using the lab tools, and what she found was impossible. Her DNA was shifting. Her body was reacting to Jason's presence, not like an infection or sickness, but like connection. She was changing on a genetic level. The next day, she ran tests on herself again and again. Her face turned pale as she stared at the result. She was pregnant with a human child, a hybrid. And it had happened without any artificial process, without any forced fusion, just through proximity and minor contact. It should not have been possible, but it was. Rinna panicked. She erased the test results from the lab servers and hid the last blood sample in a cold storage case. If the council found out, she and Jason would be eliminated. Not punished, not warned, eliminated. It was the law. Alien reproduction was strictly controlled, especially with species not approved for crossbreeding. She returned to Jason's cell the next day, trying to act normal, but Jason saw it. Something in her eyes had changed. She looked nervous, softer, even more human in the way she moved. "Are you okay?" Jason asked. She nodded, but didn't speak. Instead, she placed a small box on the table inside the cell and whispered, "We don't have much time." Jason opened the box and saw two things: a data chip and a small pulse weapon. His heart jumped. "What is this?" he asked. "Proof," she said quietly. "And your chance to survive?" Jason looked at her, confused. But she didn't explain more. She leaned closer and whispered, "You are more dangerous than any weapon Earth has ever built, and they're starting to realize it." She turned and walked out. Jason sat on the edge of his cot, holding the chip in one hand and the weapon in the other. Something big was happening, something much bigger than a simple war. He looked up at the blinking light in the corner of the ceiling, the camera that watched him every hour. And for the first time, he smiled. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He was a threat, a human threat, and someone was helping him. In the deep halls of the Galactic Council, whispers spread like fire. The rumors about a human making an alien pregnant were no longer just rumors. Someone had leaked parts of a lab report, and now powerful leaders were starting to panic. The council chamber, normally quiet and full of order, was now filled with shouting voices and worried faces. Advisor Kelver, a sharp-eyed commander from the Tharn species, stood and slammed the table. If this is true, humans are not just a threat, they are a virus, he growled. Other members nodded, while some remained silent. They had seen the leaked data. A Valtor female, one of their own, carrying a hybrid child part alien, part human, and worse. It had happened naturally, without machines, without force. That was unheard of. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Dr. Kirill watched everything from a hidden screen. He had changed his identity, his face, even his voice, but he had eyes everywhere. He knew what was coming. He had warned them. Now they were trying to hide it. The council ordered all information deleted. Labs were wiped, security tightened, and Rina was taken away to a hidden location. But the truth had already slipped out. Across a dozen planets, alien soldiers had begun asking questions. They wanted to know if the rumors were real. They wanted to know what it meant if humans could do what no other race could, and some were secretly excited. They had seen humans in the field. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but passionate, emotional, brave. Now they were something else, something powerful. The council's leaders met in secret. They considered options. Some wanted to send a virus to Earth, silent and slow, to stop the spread before it began. Others wanted to kidnap more humans and run private experiments. But one voice, deep and cold, said something that made everyone go silent. We should strike Earth now. Wipe them out before the galaxy learns the truth, said Grand Speaker Velker. The longer we wait, the faster they spread. Outside the chambers, not everyone agreed. Some young scientists and soldiers began forming quiet networks. They believed the hybrids were the future, not a threat. They wanted to learn, not destroy, one of them. An alien named Talon from the Arvasi race began spreading encrypted messages. Don't fear the change, he wrote. Humans are not invaders, they are connectors. Back in the detention zone, Jason waited every day. He noticed fewer guards watching him. Something was happening one night. A soft beep came from the wall, a hidden panel opened, and a young alien technician stepped inside. His name was Diro. I'm here to help, he whispered. Jason stared at him, ready to fight, but Diro raised his hands. I know about Rina. I know about the baby. I know what you are. Jason stayed silent. Diro gave him new clothes, a small oxygen patch, and a fake ID card, he whispered. They're going to move you to a black site where no one ever returns. You need to escape before morning. Jason looked at the exit panel, blinking. Slowly, everything in him wanted to run, to leave this alien nightmare behind. But then he thought of Rina. He thought of the baby she carried, their baby. He couldn't just save himself. He had to find her. Where is she? He asked. Diro hesitated, then said, she's in the genetic tower on the upper deck. Heavily guarded, but I can help. As the two of them moved through the dark tunnels of the research station, alarms began to ring. Someone had discovered the escape attempt. Jason's heart pounded as they ran through metal halls and sliding doors. Diro was fast, but Jason was determined. They reached the tower, and using the ID card, they opened the gate. Inside, Jason found Rina, weak but alive, her eyes wide with shock and relief. He ran to her, lifted her gently, and whispered, we're not experiments. We're not weapons. We're a family. Outside, sirens wailed louder and footsteps echoed. They had to move now. Jason turned to Diro, who handed him one last Tula small data chip. This has proof. Genetic maps, test logs. everything the council tried to hide. Jason held it tightly, knowing it was more powerful than any gun if he could get it to Earth. The truth would spread across the stars. The war wouldn't be about land or power anymore. It would be about life itself, as they escaped into a maintenance ship. Rinna leaned on Jason's shoulder and whispered, "They will come after us. They will try to silence us." Jason looked at her, his face calm. "Let them try," he said. "The truth is already growing." The lights flickered above as Jason guided Rinna through the narrow corridor. She leaned against him, breathing hard. Her hands pressed to her stomach. The small lab ship they had entered was old, maybe even abandoned, but it still worked. Diro stayed behind to confuse the security team, giving them time to escape. Jason didn't want to leave him, but Diro had insisted. "If you survive, the truth survives," he said. Inside the ship, dust covered everything, and the air smelled like oil and metal. Jason moved quickly, checking the systems and controls. He had some flight training back on Earth, but nothing prepared him for alien tech. Still, the basics were the same: throttle, power, stabilizers. He activated the ship, and it hummed to life. Rinna sat in a chair beside him, eyes half closed, whispering words in her own language. She was tired, but she was strong. She had to. Outside, alarms screamed across the space station. Security drones flew through the air, scanning every corner. Jason knew they had only minutes before the council forces found them. He pushed the launch button, and the ship shuddered. Rising slowly from the hidden platform, the hatch closed behind them, sealing them off from the past. For now, they were free, but escape was only the beginning. Jason looked at the screen, seeing dozens of red dot tsunami ships preparing to block their exit. They weren't going to make it out of the station's orbit without a fight. "Can you fly this?" Rinna asked, her voice weak. "I can try," Jason said, gripping the controls tightly. He fired the engine boosters, sending the ship into a steep climb. Blasts shook the hull as drones opened fire. Jason zigzagged between metal towers and glowing antennas, trying to stay ahead. One of the wings got hit, sending a burst of sparks inside the cabin. He fought the controls, keeping the ship stable. Rinna reached over and tapped the defense panel, activating a pulse shield for a few seconds. It worked. The blasts bounced off, giving them time to escape the station's atmosphere. Suddenly, a large cruiser appeared in front of them. It was a council warship, fully armed. Jason cursed under his breath. "We're not going to outrun that," he said. Rinna looked at the scanner, then pointed to a nearby moon. "It's uninhabited. We can hide there." Jason didn't like it, but they had no choice. He changed direction, flying low, using the ship's damaged body to hide in the moon's electromagnetic field. The cruiser followed for a while, then slowed down, scanning the area. After what felt like hours, it turned away. Jason finally let out a breath, his hands shaking. They had made it for now. They landed the ship near a rocky canyon, hidden under a large overhang. Jason powered down everything except life support. He checked Rinna's condition. Her vitals were low but steady. She was strong, and so was the baby. Jason sat beside her and opened the data chip Diro had given him. It contained hundreds of files, evidence of hybrid compatibility, DNA maps, secret communications from the council. It was everything the galaxy needed to know. Rinna opened her eyes and looked at him. "You have to get this to Earth," she said. Jason nodded. "I will, but not without you." The next few days were quiet, but dangerous. Jason repaired what he could on the ship, using scrap from old mining tools stored in the back. He sent out a signal, encrypted and hidden, hoping someone from the Resistance would hear. Meanwhile, Rinna's condition grew more serious. The pregnancy was progressing faster than expected. Jason didn't know if it was human speed or something else, but he knew they didn't have much time. On the 5th night, A small ship responded to his signal. It was an old cargo hauler flown by a rebel pilot named Nessa. She was part of a secret group of aliens who supported peace with humans. She landed quietly, checked the area, and nodded at Jason. "You've got something big," she said. Jason showed her the data, and her face went pale. "If the galaxy sees this, the war will end. But everything will change." "Then let's change everything," Jason said. They loaded Rina onto the hauler. Wrapping her in thermal blankets, Jason held her hand the whole time, whispering soft words. She smiled at him weakly, her eyes glowing with something more than pain hope. As the ship lifted off the moon's surface, Jason looked out at the stars. They were no longer cold and far away. They were open doors to a new future. Back at the council, the silence grew louder. They had lost the specimen, the hybrid, and the proof. But they didn't know one thing. The message had already started to spread, and Jason was not just running. He was moving toward something, a galaxy that was about to wake up. On Earth, everything looked normal from the outside. People still went to work, walked their dogs, and watched the skies. But inside the underground headquarters of the Global Space Alliance, alarms were blaring. A secret message had arrived, hidden deep in encrypted waves from deep space. It was from Jason Cole, the missing soldier presumed dead. The message was short, but it came with something powerful, a data chip. Dr. Yana Torres, Earth's top xenobiologist, rushed to the command center. She had waited years for something like this. She placed the chip into the reader, and streams of alien symbols appeared on the screen. Then came the human genetic data, the hybrid logs, and the council's private communications. Her mouth fell open as she scrolled through it. "Dear God," she whispered, "it's all true." Earth had long suspected something strange about their biology. They had survived diseases that wiped out entire colonies. Human DNA adapted quickly, healed quickly, and resisted many alien viruses. But no one expected this. The idea that humans could mate with other species and create strong, living hybrids was beyond anything science had predicted. Dr. Torres called an emergency meeting with the Alliance Council. World leaders, generals, scientists, and diplomats gathered around the glowing conference table. Torres stood in front of them with shaking hands. "This isn't just about Jason Cole," she said. "This is about what it means to be human." She showed the room a scan of the hybrid fetus, already showing genetic stability. "This child will not be sick, not be weak. It will be stronger than both parents." The room went silent. "Now imagine this happening across hundreds of species." She continued, "Not through force, not through war, but through life, through family." The military commanders were nervous. "If the aliens find this child, they'll come for Earth," one said. Another added, "If we don't prepare now, we could be wiped out before we even understand what we are." But one voice stood firm. General Malik, a calm and thoughtful man, leaned forward. "They won't just fear us," he said. "They'll want us, and not for war, but for what we offer." Meanwhile, the message from Jason began to spread, though it had been meant for Earth. Rebels within the galactic network picked up traces of it. Soon, on distant planets, alien civilians began hearing whispers. Humans can cross bloodlines. They carry life that mixes with ours. They may be the future on the Council homeworld. Leaders tried to shut it down. They blocked signals, erased news stories, and punished scientists who asked questions. But the damage had been done. The idea was out. And ideas were harder to kill than people. Back on Earth, Dr. Torres and her team began preparing a reply. They sent a signal back through the same encrypted path Jason used. A simple message: "We hear you. We are coming, and we are not alone." At the same time, underground labs on Earth began running experiments on known alien-compatible samples. They found the same results Jason had: sign compatibility, rapid development, and shared traits. The hybrids weren't just real, they were stable, intelligent, and emotionally balanced. It was proof that this wasn't an accident. It was evolution. A new task force was created. Not for war, but for connection. They named it Project Eden. Its mission was to find, protect, and support human-alien hybrids and those who carried them. It was a secret, for now, but soon it would be too big to hide. Jason and Rinna, still flying, with Nessa toward Earth's outpost on Mars. Didn't know how fast the message had spread, but Jason had a feeling. He looked at Rinna, who was resting now, her body calm, the baby safe inside her. "We started something," he said softly. Rinna opened her eyes and gave a weak smile. "No," she said. "We didn't start it. We revealed it as they approached the Martian." Outpost, Jason saw the human flags flying above the landing bay. He saw soldiers in armor, medics standing ready, scientists with scanners in hand. They were ready not to fight but to learn. To understand what this meant for all of them, the ship landed gently and the bay doors opened. Jason stepped out first, arms raised. Behind him, Rinna was carried out carefully, protected like treasure, and in the silence of the red sands. One of the scientists whispered, "She's the first." Jason turned, looked at Earth shining in the sky above, and knew the truth. They were no longer just humans. They were the bridge, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk far away from the Galactic Council, deep in the shadow of a dying star. A secret base floated quietly in space. It was hidden inside an asteroid field, protected by cloaking fields and energy fog. This base did not belong to any government. It was a safe zone, built by aliens who no longer believed in the Council's rule. Inside this base, a new group had formed. Aliens of different shapes, colors, and species stood together. They were scientists, rebels, doctors, pilots, creatures once loyal to their homeworlds, but now loyal to something else. They called themselves the Concord. Their mission was simple: to protect the future, and that future now had a human heart. When Jason, Rinna, and Nessa arrived, the Concord leaders met them in silence. They had heard rumors, seen flashes of the data, but now they stood face to face with proof. Rinna was tired, but strong, and her child inside her was still growing fast. Jason stood next to her, eyes sharp, his back straight. He wasn't a scientist or a leader, but in this moment, he was a symbol, the Concord's main speaker. An ancient four-eyed being named Malren stepped forward. "Are the stories true?" he asked, his voice low and slow. Jason nodded and handed him the data chip. Malren inserted it into the table console, and the room filled with light and numbers. DNA strands twisted in the air, showing hybrid patterns. Heartbeat rhythms from both human and alien merged perfectly. Gasps filled the room as the aliens saw the truth. Not only could humans breed with other species, but the results were stronger, smarter, and healthier than expected. It wasn't a weakness, it was a gift. Some in the room cried, others just stared in silence. One young alien medic whispered, "This could save my people." That night, the Concord voted to take a stand. They would no longer hide. They would spread the truth. They would protect Jason, Rinna, and the child. And they would open their arms to others who believed in peace. Jason was surprised when Malren asked him to speak. He didn't know what to say, but he stepped up and spoke from his heart. "I'm not special," he said. "I was just a soldier, a prisoner. Someone who didn't even understand his own body. But maybe that's the point," he continued. "If someone like me can help change the galaxy, then maybe we all can." Rinna stepped beside him and placed her hand over her belly. "This child is not a weapon," she said. "She is hope." The Concord began building new communication towers. They sent encrypted messages to hidden groups across the galaxy. They invited peaceful aliens, rejected by the council, to join them, and slowly, something amazing began to happen. On distant worlds, aliens who had always followed orders began to think for themselves. Some sent small ships to find the Concorde. Others began whispering in markets, in homes, in schools. Maybe the humans aren't the danger. Maybe they're the answer. The Galactic Council, on the other hand, was losing control. Their attempts to erase the truth were failing. News of the hybrid child had reached places even their spies could not silence. Protests began on major planets. Some soldiers refused to fire on rebel ships. Some scientists leaked classified reports the galaxy was shifting, and the council felt it like a crack in a dam. In response, they declared the Concorde a terrorist group. They put a bounty on Jason Cole, Rinna, and the unborn hybrid. They sent elite hunter ships to find and destroy the rebel base. But it was too late. The Concorde was no longer one. It was many. Scattered, mobile, growing. Jason trained with Concorde soldiers, not to fight, but to protect. He learned alien languages, new flight systems, and ways to survive in any environment. He became more than a soldier. He became a symbol of unity. Rinna joined the Scientific Council and helped design new hybrid care centers. She also began speaking to alien mothers who were afraid, confused, or unsure. She told them, "You are not alone." Then came the message. The Concorde broadcasted across hundreds of channels in different languages. A calm, soft voice said to every creature who feels lost, to every species afraid of change, "Know this, we are not the end of your story. We are the beginning of a new one." The screen showed images of human hands holding alien ones, hybrid. Children playing under twin suns, alien doctors working beside human nurses. A galaxy not divided by war, but connected by life. The message was powerful, not loud, not angry, but full of hope. And hope, like life, is hard to stop once it begins. Inside the medical chamber aboard a Concorde starship, the lights were soft and the air was quiet. Jason stood beside Rinna, holding her hand tightly. She was breathing hard, sweat on her forehead, her body shaking. Doctors from different alien species worked together around her. Human tech blended with alien tools. Monitors showed a heartbeat, small, fast, but steady, their baby. The first true human-alien hybrid was coming. Rinna screamed as pain filled her body, but she did not let go of Jason's hand. He whispered to her again and again, "You're doing great. You're strong. I'm right here." And she was strong. She had come so far, risked everything, and now the moment was here. After long hours, the room fell silent, and then a soft cry. Not loud, not sharp, but clear and full of life. A small figure was lifted into the air, wrapped in soft green cloth. The child had light brown skin, small glowing eyes, and soft white hair. She looked at the room with curiosity, her tiny fingers moving in the air. Jason's eyes filled with tears. He had faced war, pain, and fear. But nothing prepared him for this. He took the child in his arms and felt her warmth. She was real, she was alive, and she was hope. Rinna reached out weakly, and Jason placed their daughter on her chest. The child nuzzled close, peaceful, safe. Rinna smiled through her tears. "She's beautiful," she whispered. Jason nodded. "She's the beginning." News of the birth spread fast. The Concorde sent a secure message to its allies. The first hybrid child has been born. She is healthy, strong, and stable. Soon, copies of the message reached hidden groups across the galaxy and even into the hands of those still inside the Council on a dozen planets. People watched the short video, Jason and Rinna holding the child, her soft cry echoing in the background. Many wept. Others smiled. Some simply sat in silence for the first time. They could see the future with their own eyes. Not a future of weapons, but of children, of families, of something better. Back on the council homeworld, the leaders were in chaos. They tried to deny the video was real, calling it fake, a trick, but too many people had seen it. Too many had already chosen. To believe on Earth, massive crowds gathered, they cheered, held signs, waved flags from different countries and even from alien worlds. They chanted, "We are the bridge," and in every corner of the planet. Humans began to realize something. They were no longer just Earthlings. They were galactic citizens. The Concord moved quickly. They began setting up new hybrid care centers. On planets that welcomed them, alien mothers who had hidden in fear now stepped forward with their children. Each child was different, but each one was healthy, clever, and strong. Scientists called it the harmony effect. The blending of species made something better, something new. Jason and Rinna stayed with the Concord. They didn't want to be heroes, but the galaxy had made them symbols. They visited planets, spoke to leaders, showed the world their daughter named Ilari. And wherever Ilari went, peace followed, fights stopped, meetings began, walls came down. One day, Dr. Kirill finally stepped out of hiding. He walked into a Concord base, carrying old notes and memory chips. "I was the first to see it," he said, "but I was afraid." Now, he joined the Genesis Accorda group of scientists from many species who studied the hybrid effect. They found that humans didn't dominate the galaxy by force. They changed it with connection, with emotion, with adaptability, and slowly, the old systems began to fall. The Galactic Council lost power as more planets turned away from fear and control. New alliances formed, not based on money or war, but on trust. Alien and human communities began to mix. Trade grew faster, education spread, and for the first time in history, peace looked possible. Jason sat one night on a balcony overlooking a new hybrid colony. Ellery played with children of all colors and shapes. Rinna sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how it started?" she asked. Jason nodded. "One cell, one choice, one moment." She smiled, "And now?" "Look." He watched as Ilari ran up to him, her small arms open wide. He lifted her into the air and laughed. She looked up at the stars and pointed. "Is that where we're going next?" she asked. Jason kissed her forehead and whispered, "Yes. Wherever there's fear, we'll go. Wherever there's pain, we'll heal. Because this is what we do." The stars above no longer felt cold. They felt like home, because the galaxy had changed, and it all began with a human.